10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All systems go.
You're listening to Sudbury News Talk.
I want to show you something.
Stand by.
On the morning shift.
Anything
Could happen.
Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift. I'm AJ Walsh. Glad to be here with you. Thankful that you're with us. We have a special show for you today. It's a half-hour version. And technology almost came out victorious this morning with the show possibly almost being postponed till tomorrow. But at the same time, we persist and we don't give up, and here we are. So thanks for being with us. We're live on CKLU 96.7 FM on the radio, terrestrial radio. We're also streaming live at cklu.ca online. Just click on the Radio Player Canada app and you can stream us. If you download the same app, you can take us with you and listen to us anywhere, anytime on your favorite device. We are also streaming at facebook.com/Sudbury News, youtube.com/Sudbury News. Make sure to like, share, subscribe. Follow the channel, and the page will be found on demand on those two channels, or on those two platforms, along with x.com/Sudbury News and our Sudbury.news website, which is a news aggregator. And you just click on the Sudbury News Talk tab. You can watch us on demand afterwards. Make sure to comment. We'll do our best to get your comments up on the screen for those watching, read for those listening. And we're just grateful to be here with you today. And we're going to dive right in, get things underway, and start off with a little bit of weather. And we'll be back with a couple local news headlines, some commentary, a deep dive. It'll be a power-packed, concentrated show, I promise, or your money back. We'll be back right after this. Okay, Sudbury weather brought to you by SudburyWeather.ca. Currently, it is 15 degrees Celsius. It's mostly cloudy. Today, we can expect it to be cloudy with a 60% chance of showers and a risk of thunderstorm this afternoon with a high of 22. Humidex 27. And then tonight, cloudy with a 60% chance of showers this evening with a risk of thunderstorm again. Fog patches developing after midnight. Then tomorrow, mainly cloudy with a 30% chance of showers in the afternoon and a risk of thunderstorm. Fog patches dissipating in the morning. High of 25. Humidex 30. UV index 7 or high. And long range for Friday, a mix of sun and cloud, 28 degrees. Saturday, 25 degrees and cloudy. Sunday, chance of showers, 30%. Monday, 30% chance of showers. Both days, 27 degrees. And mix of sun and cloud, 26. So yesterday looked a little more promising for the forecast for the foreseeable future, but they just decided to throw in some thunderstorms and some rain in there just to keep the flowers happy. That is your Sudbury weather, brought to you by SudburyWeather.ca. We'll be back with news headlines, comments, and more right after this. Okay, thanks for joining us, everyone. And again, my apologies, but we're having a truncated show this morning. Good morning, Northern Hillbilly. Good morning, Nana. Kiddo, thank you. Blessings all. Heart emoji, exclamation point. Thank you. Judy, good morning to you. Monique, good morning. Sudbury, smiley emoji. Hazel, good morning with the prayer emoji, much needed. And thank you. And Pat, good morning. Y'all, what happened to the 7:30 start? Yeah, I know. Technology is happening. I'm in a different studio today, so a little bit of the transferring of some of my equipment and a couple of cats in the studio too. That wasn't really the reason. The cats weren't the reason. They just kept me company while I was troubleshooting. However, anyways, good morning to you, Andrew, and good morning, Monique. Heart emoji, exclamation point, grand rising. Denise, blessings, everyone. Happy emoji. Denise, we're having severe weather issues and all these cell towers and many HARP stations, they call them Gwen, Gwen. We need to take the towers down to save our civilization, our country, and stop the carnage. Now, again, just like I'm perplexed that people don't notice that we're being sprayed pretty much every day by planes spraying us with stuff, and it stays in the sky and it develops into clouds and then it rains and all these things. They don't notice big, long, crisscrossy lines in the sky, or they don't think anything of it. They just think that's normal. I don't know what people think. They just think all kinds of things. They just don't want to think what it actually is. And it's a geoengineering program trying to dim the sun. That's what that's what the mainstream scientists will say. But there's actually a darker underbelly to all of that as well. But people don't even know what's going on in the first place. They just don't even ask questions. They don't think to ask questions. And another thing is these new towers that just went up overnight. So what happened was during the lockdown, there were there were regular towers. We're used to towers being up, but not these new sophisticated 5G towers. Yeah, I went out and said it, so the algorithm's not going to like me. Anyways, but these towers that are out there for this new wireless technology, supposed to be for our benefit. It's always for our benefit. This is for faster internet, right? But a deeper look into it shows that this technology could also be used and be weaponized against a population. So if you just do a little bit of research, you realize these towers are capable of that. Now, we all know the government and the powers that be would never use it for that purpose, right? But they just are. So it's up to you to look into that if you care. And many people don't. So don't look into it. But you might have just heard it here first or not. And that's just what I'm here to do, is just kind of put it out there, ask some questions, make some observations, and allow others to do the same on this platform, on this show. And with that, the views expressed on this show do not necessarily reflect those of Laurentian University, staff or faculty, or the volunteers of CKLU or any of the staff at either of the two organizations. They are that of my own, the people commenting, the guests we have on the show. We take full responsibility for our own comments. Okay, so with that, let's just continue on here. Good morning, Betty. Good morning, Vietnam. Remember that movie with Robin Williams? Good morning from Niagara. And Liette, good morning from Collingwood. Hand clap emoji. You're also giving some more shout outs there. But we got to try and keep it. See, I never know when the comments are going back and forth between people commenting, or they're meant for the show or for me. So they just all come up on my screen. And so I have to kind of make a last minute decision whether to read it or not. Anyways. Pierrette, good morning. Rain making the dark ages at net zero enlightenment. Yeah, so this whole idea. And good morning. Epstein killed himself. Yeah. Sorry, that's a good one. Thanks for that, David. Appreciate it. It's always good to have a good laugh in the morning. I needed that. Thank you very much. Yeah, oh my goodness. What's going on with all that stuff? There's a list, there's no list. There's cameras, there's no cameras, there's security guards at the jail. They fall asleep. There's new security guards put on, nothing to see here. Wait, there's a list. We have the list. We're going to reveal it. If you elect me, there's no list anymore. Epstein, there's nothing to see here. Everything's good. Just move on with your life. This stuff. And then the P. Diddy, he only gets charged for a couple things. They kind of totally turn a blind eye to all the really crazy stuff that he was involved in, with all the baby oil, like tons and tons of baby oil found in his mansion. Anyways, it's crazy. We all know that. And Hazel, yes, I do believe There's poison in the skies that they're spraying us with. We made that case yesterday with a scientist explaining what's in those chemicals that are being sprayed over our heads almost on a daily basis. And CSIS said the towers are owned by China. Well, that was the whole thing too. So go back to the towers. Before COVID, whatever, the lockdowns, even the term lockdown, we weren't quarantined, we were locked down. It was like some military or a prison-like verbiage rather than a health verbiage. And so we were locked down. We were in our houses. We were not allowed to go out. But all of a sudden, these towers went up during that time. Like literally, the day we were locked down, the first day, everyone's in front of their TVs going, "What's going on? What, tell us, Justin Trudeau, King Trudeau, tell us what we need to do." And then, we're just going to be locked down for 2 weeks. Remember he said that? Just stay in your homes. Just 2 weeks. That's all we need. So everyone goes, "Oh, okay, I can give you 2 weeks." And we all know what turned out after that. Anyhow, the day after the lockdown, I go in my backyard. I ventured out into my backyard. I took a risk. I left my house. I went in the backyard. Imagine that. And I looked over and I saw a brand new tower that had just gone up overnight. No kidding. Never heard a thing. It's maybe, I would say, 200 yards from my house. Never heard a thing with the tower going up overnight. But then I noticed not only there was a tower, there were towers everywhere. These new FIVEG towers, right? And we're like, what? Oh, it's all for your internet. But before that happened, I remember CBC talking about Huawei. Huawei was going to get the contract for the FIVEG network across the country. They were going to get the contract, and everyone's like, well, can we have China having all of this technology, knowing every single thing? Like, if you own the infrastructure, the communications infrastructure of a country, there are security issues with that, especially a country like that, like China, right? Like, you got to really give your head a shake. So I remember the host talking to someone going, "Yeah, I know there's concerns, blah, blah, blah. I don't know if this," and then boom, COVID hit. Never heard a thing about who's going to get the contract for the FIVEG network across Canada. But yeah, so I guess they just went ahead with it, and that's who owns it. That's who is behind the infrastructure and putting it all up. So what are they doing with all the information they're gathering from us? I guess the future will tell. I know CSIS said that the election interference was real and that there is foreign interference in our country on a mass scale. So I wonder if that is all part of it, right? It must be. Well, I would say, why wouldn't you use that information if you had access to it? And Sylvia, good morning to you. Thanks for being on. And let's just cover a couple things here locally, dive into a little bit of a deep dive with the limited time that we do have. This one caught my eye right away this morning. People in a car got another driver to pull over, and then they robbed the victim. Can you imagine that? I never knew that people would pull over from a citizen pulling someone over, but they did, and then they were robbed. So don't do that. Someone came behind them, flashed their high beams a few times, and I guess somehow waved them over. I don't know how they actually did that, but they got them to pull over, told them that they had a tail light out. So they were both on the side of the highway. The victim gets out of the car to go check and say, "Oh, really? My tail light is out?" And goes to the back of the car, and all of a sudden the person who was such a nice citizen to tell them the headlight was out showed them a knife and said, "Give me all the money in your purse," right? Don't pull over when people are telling you to pull over. Pull over, that's for sure. Or at least if you do, pull over at a public area. Like pull over at a gas station or a convenience store or something, a public area, and then get out. All right, so just a word of caution there. That was from Sudbury Star, and then you have Sudbury.com reporting that city-owned downtown land is attracting interest from developers. The city's purchase of a wide swath of downtown Sudbury South District area is attracting interest from developers. This story coming from the Sudbury.com from Tyler Clark, according to a report by City Planning Services Director. This interest includes those with experience in building hotels and commercial spaces. His report noted leveraging this momentum will help secure further investments that are well suited for the properties near the event center. When the city started buying the downtown Sudbury properties in 2023, it was for a $200 million or $225 million, according to land and costs sunk into the since canceled Kingsway Entertainment District Event Center, plus private ancillary services on adjoining land. And the mayor said just doing a standalone and hoping for that private sector steps in and buys these properties and develops them will never happen. Okay? And that was Paul Lefebvre saying it at the time. So he was hoping that people would come in and buy some of this land. Now, I do have some good sources telling me that a casino is on the last stages of being announced in Sudbury. They were going to be having a casino. And good morning, Leonard. Thanks for being on. We have it on some good sources that a casino will be announced very shortly. Where it's going to go, I don't know. Is that what they're kind of alluding to in this story, that developers are after some of this adjacent property to the event center? I don't know. It hasn't been all that public. We did talk about a casino many years ago going along with an event center, and should it go downtown, blah, blah, blah. Well, a lot of people took exception to that and thought there was a lot of vulnerable people that would get taken advantage of if it was downtown, right? And so the people, I guess, had their way for a while. But just like anything, it always creeps back. The people who are planning these things just wait a little bit of time, and then they give it to you packaged differently. They say, yeah, but this is a different thing. It's packaged differently. It's the same thing, but it's just said differently, packaged differently. But I kind of can see how they're going to sell it to the people now that we found out through this Fraser Institute report that we are going to be the most in debt municipality out of any municipality in Ontario after all of this money that we're borrowing. We're going to be into $3,333 per person in the city in debt. And that is way over the average of $900 per citizen average in Ontario, right? That's a lot over the average. The average. That means it's like the middle kind of deal. Okay, so Jerome, good morning to you. Sudbury News Troopers. Yeah, it's always been the objective to have a casino, right? But we haven't heard anything about it. It's just inside sources that are telling me, someone who knows the person who's behind doing it. And so with all of this coming out that we're going to be the most in debt municipality, they can easily sell this now to the city going, look, we're going to be really in debt. Now, you won't be as in debt if we have a casino, because we're going to take revenue. We're going to take a chunk of the proceeds from that casino, and it'll lower the amount of taxes for each citizen. You're going to go, oh, okay, well, I don't want to be on the hook for $3,333 when the average Ontario citizen is only on the hook for $900. You know, okay, well, if you got to have a casino, and good morning, Brian, thanks for being on, then let's have a casino then, right? So pay attention. That's probably coming out very shortly. And I heard in days. I heard we're going to know within days that the casino announcement is going to take place. But we'll have to see, right? And then CBC comes out and they give the story about how in debt we are yesterday. And they say over $3,000. And again, we talk about media, right? And how media has a little bit of leeway to word things the way they want. They have some liberties there. So they could have said $3,333. They could have said that. They didn't. They said just over 3,000. So you got to really pay attention to wording and which news organization is saying what. Sudbury.com didn't even report on it. I know why, because they're pretty favorable with the city. They don't want to say anything that, from my experience anyways, from what we've had on the show, they really don't. And it's Tyler Clark specifically who covers the city, is very favorable. Like we'll say, oh, the city report says this, this is what this city person says, not questioning too many things, you know what I mean? And seems pretty on board with limiting the idea of, the fact that we're going to be the most in-debt city in Canada. You could come out with a big headline for that, right? So remember the guy and we should be up in arms with this. We're going to be the most in-debt municipality in Ontario by far. But no, people aren't worried about that in our news community, thanks to the Sudbury Star for at least reporting on it first. And then CBC kind of downplays it a bit. And good morning, Jess. Thanks for being on. They need to put a parking lot where the old arena is. There may have been parking spots all downtown that's never full. That's because people don't feel safe walking to the destination, so locals avoided downtown, and that's exactly right. So there is no parking plan for downtown, as far as I know, unless they're going to come out with parking now that the casino is coming, right? I don't know. They might. If there's a casino coming now, they might add a park. Oh, that might be the sell. Okay, a casino's coming and they're going to have a parking structure with the casino. Oh, okay. Now many people will go, okay, well, at least it's going to soften the amount of debt that the citizens are in, and there's going to be parking downtown. So if I was someone who, was political, I would be giving the advice to those in those positions that would be the way to go. If I was wanting all of this to go ahead, I'd say this is going to be your game plan. Come out with all this, get all the negative out of the way, people up in arms about the cost, let them get it out of their system, then announce the casino and say that's a solution to the economic problem that'll take the burden off taxpayers with a parking structure. And it's like, whoa, that just answers everything for us. That's great. Let's have the casino downtown and the arena downtown, which was their plan originally, remember? And then they put it out to a vote, and the people spoke, and they didn't want it downtown. They didn't want a casino downtown. So Kingsway Entertainment District got the nod to where everyone would rather have a casino and the arena, right? And then we all know what happened there. Never happened. It was too expensive at $200 million. Well, now they're saying they're going to build one downtown for $200 million. So I don't know why it was so expensive over there. And then for the same price, we're going to build it downtown. But with Tom Price's numbers, looks like it's going to be in and around over $700 million at the end of the day, right? So there's a lot of craziness going on around that conversation. So now switching gears a bit to more of a, being taxed isn't something that just Sudburyans are used to. This is a Canadian thing. And unfortunately, our mayor comes from the current government's party, and they have a history of spending and taxing, and it's no different here. Mario from the north has some observations just about taxes and where we're heading in Canada with these taxes.
They tax what you earn, they tax what you save, they tax what you invest. They then tax your family when you die. Municipal, provincial, federal, income taxes, sales taxes, payroll taxes, property taxes, luxury taxes, battery recycling fee taxes. Inflation is the worst tax. And all these taxes they take from you, tens of billions of it, don't go to you. They go to other countries.
And when he said inflation is the worst tax, just want to pause on that for a second. It's so true. Because when inflation happens, it means everything goes up. Well, if everything goes up and taxes are a percentage of what you buy, so let's say 13% on whatever you buy. So if something's $100 and the inflation brings it to $200, your tax is also doubled. So that's why it's the worst out of them all.
Let me ask you something. If you had a family member who went bankrupt, who's about to lose their home, their house, their family's going to be on the street, would you still expect Christmas presents from them? Canada has a tax issue because it has a spending issue. It spends irresponsibly. It ballooned the size of the government, where a huge portion of our population, in some way, shape, or form, works either for municipal, provincial, or the federal government. And we have become a tax farm, with all of us being tax donkeys. I've said it before, and I'll say it again, but taxes are the fee that you pay for being productive. And Canada has gone too far with it. The spending bonanza has to end. And right now, the projections are that Mark Carney is going to deliver the biggest deficit ever in Canadian history outside of COVID. And for those who need to be reminded, COVID funds were used to prop up countless businesses, give countless loans, a few of them grants, and a lot of Canadians money because they forced all of our businesses and all of us in the country to shut down. Mark Carney is coming close to spending that amount of money, which ultimately will be paid by you. It means high inflation in the short run, and it means more taxes in the long run. If you add up all the surpluses delivered in the last 30 years, it won't even make up half of what Mark Carney is looking at putting us into a deficit this year alone. He may look like a nice, happy, smiley old man. He may come across as this sweet, intelligent old man, but he's setting us up for financial ruin.
The Liberals, also being relatively instrumental in Canny, decided that they would install a new leader, coronate him, and now we have a prime minister who's only been selected by about 130,000 Canadians. And the real issue here is, Pierce, I think that older Canadians who are likely to prefer Carney believe that he's a return to the stability, let's say, of the period between, well, even the post-war period, but particularly between 1990 and 2010. You know, Carney's a banker. Canadians think he's pro-free market. They think that he's pro-industry. They think that he's a genuine, old-style, stable, conservative, liberal type. And he looks the part, and he plays that, and that's how he puts himself forward. But the problem with that, sir, is that Carney is seriously bad news. Despite his international cachet and his lengthy CV and his term as Bank of England governor, that's all impressed Canadians and made them believe on the face of his CV that he's a competent person. But a little bit of investigation into what he believes and the scope of the oncoming disaster makes itself clear. I mean, Carney believes that 75% of the world's fossil fuels have to remain in the ground. He believes that every single financial decision that every individual makes in every company should prioritize decarbonization over every other consideration. Right?
And it goes on and on and on, his ideological views, right? And his book Values. I just remembered that. Yeah, I thought I wouldn't remember it. But his book Values is basically how he explains a Marxist principle of where he comes from, you know, the Communist Manifesto, you know, communism ideology. And that's, if you want to read his book's Values, and then you want to read the Communist Manifesto, you'll see where he gets that from. But that's his, he's a Marxist economic person, economist, whatever. That's where he gets his economic policies from, is a Marxist point of view, which again, that's where the world's going. The world's going into a very draconian, communist, you know, highly censored world, because the more stuff like this is coming out, and the more you just we're having this conversation and we're talking to each other and we're making sense and we're going, yeah, why is that like that? Why are we doing these things? The more they can't pull the wool over people's eyes anymore, and you're just asking questions and you're getting bizarre answers. You ever give your head a shake when you hear a politician answer someone's real question? They actually ask a real question. You're like, oh yes, good question. And then they just go talk around in circles. And it sounds like, did you actually hear the question you were asked? I think politicians have to be more held accountable to actually answer the actual question they were asked and not be allowed to just sit there and talk in circles afterwards and not give a non-answer and just whatever and be all smug like they are. Anyways, so that's where we're headed in our world, to be able to mask this, and Blender does it like nobody's business, so we'll just let them take it away here.
Union has officially enshrined censorship into law under the Digital Services Act. Started as a voluntary code of practice on disinformation, is now mandatory for big tech. As of July 1st, Google, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Microsoft, Spotify, and every other platform deemed a very large online platform or very large online search engine must now prove to the European Commission that they're actively policing so-called disinformation. And they don't just have to comply. They have to report, document, and open themselves up to audits by the EU regulators. If they don't, they face fines up to 20% of their global revenue. Again, that's revenue, not profit. So, just for fun, let's do some math. Meta generated $164 billion in revenue in 2024, which means a fine under this act would cost them $33 billion. It would cost TikTok $34 billion. As for Google, we're talking $70 billion for a single infraction. That's not guidance, that's a shakedown. But let's ask the only question that really matters. Who decides what qualifies as disinformation? Because that's the ballgame here. Is it a government bureaucrat in Brussels who gets to decide what truth looks like because they know better? Is it some NGO funded by political interests telling Meta what is misinformation? Is it another fact checker funded by Big Pharma who conveniently labels legitimate data or inconvenient stories as missing context whenever the facts don't fit the narrative? I don't know, maybe it's all of the above. But the truth is, this is not a war on disinformation, it's a war on dissent. They're not protecting you from being misled, they're protecting themselves from being challenged. And they're not hiding it. The EU is literally saying that platforms must cut off financial incentives for disinformation actors, which is bureaucratic jargon for deplatforming, demonetizing, and silencing voices that don't comply. What's crazy is that the EU is even taking their own nations to court if they don't implement this law effectively enough. And don't think for a second this is just Europe. Australia has appointed an e-safety czar to censor the internet. The UK's Online Safety Act not only has sweeping censorship authority, it also has the power to disrupt encryption, scan private communications, and impose penalties that go far beyond removing disinformation. As for Canada, they are certainly entering the room by subjectively criminalizing online speech through Bill C-63. So, the writing is on the wall, people. The censorship cartel is global, where the judge, jury, and executioner of truth are transnational regulatory regimes with no accountability, armed with vague definitions, political agendas, and the power to throw you in jail for stepping out of line. And of course, the power to destroy tech companies who don't silence speech at scale.
And there you have it. So that's where we're heading now, because it seems like, okay, we're going to make sure we back these people into a corner. The gig is up. We all know what's going on, but then they can just kind of flex their muscles and with power and make laws, because that's what they can do. They can actually make laws, and then they get the enforcement there, because the police actually have to follow the orders that they're given through the laws, and you can go to jail. So again, we're turning into a communist one world government, new world order, as Herbert Walker Bush put it back in, was it the late 80s, early 90s? I forget the actual date when he announced that the new world order was now in power and now going to be unveiled and brought into the world. And Mark Carney just recently said, yeah, that's what we're doing. We're at the point now. We're flicking the switch. No more old history stuff. Don't be nostalgic about the way things were. We're moving forward with this new world order. And so that's all the time we got for today. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Thanks for commenting. Thanks for listening. We really appreciate you. Remember to stay aware, like, share, take care. And we'll be back same time, same place, God willing, on the same platforms tomorrow. Stay tuned now for Earshot Daily on CKLU 96.7 FM, and we'll see you then. Thanks again. Ciao for now.
Talk on the morning shift.